Welcome to the next session on the Lean program. After implementation of 5S in our processes, what do we do next? The next step would be to understand value added and non-value added activities in our processes. So for that, we need to understand something called as value stream mapping. What is this value stream mapping? Value stream mapping is just about identifying your steps in your processes from start to the end and labeling them whether they add value to your process or not. So when I say value, it means these processes should add some commercial value from the previous step. Now, why do we need value stream mapping in the first place? I mean, I have a process which will definitely deliver the client the product or the service that he needs. So why do I need to value each step in my process from start to the end? I will definitely deliver him what he needs with the quality that he looks for and well within the time. And then why does he want to see which step in my process adds value or not? Why? All the clients in the world want to pay only for the things that they desire for, and not for the things that are reasons to constitute that product or service. That means all of us want to pay only for the end results and not for the means that are reasons for their existence. Let's take an example of any of us going to a clinic. What happens? Is your full focus on the registration process in the clinic? Do you really want to pay for this step? Or are you jumping with joy to pay for the waiting that you have to do before you see the doctor? Or do you want to really pay for the vitals that you have to undergo before you actually see the doctor? All you care about is just two things. And that is the doctor listening to your problem, doing the examination, and giving you consultation. And the second is giving you the medicines which will solve your problem. Besides these two activities, all other activities, according to the client, are non-value adding activities because he does not want to pay for these activities. Now, this is very easy for the client to say that all other activities are non-value adding activities. But if you ask the hospital or the clinic, they would say that without these non-value adding activities, how can you reach the doctor? These activities are very important in order to channelize your problem, put you in a proper queue, take your vital checks before we can facilitate you to see the doctor. So even if Mr. Client calls these activities as non-value adding activities, we as an hospital or a clinic cannot do away with these activities because these are prerequisite and important before you see the doctor. Now, here is an important point that we have to understand. Whenever somebody puts these words into your ears, non-value adding activities, he does not mean that simply kick out these steps from the process. he does not mean that just eliminate these steps from the process. He's just telling you that these steps in the process do not add any commercial value to the process. Your customer is not ready to pay for these steps or sub-steps. So then what do we do? So we here channelize the, here we categorize the non-value adding activities into two parts. Non-value adding activities that can be avoided and non-value adding activities that cannot be avoided. And the treatment given to both these categories is different. So first of all, we were not aware that we have non-value adding activities in our process. The customer came and told us that you have some 80% or 70% activities which I don't want to pay for, and I call them non-value adding activities. When the customer tells us this, we went ahead the second step into categorization of the non-value adding activities into avoidable and not avoidable. That means something with which the business can run with a substitute or with a workaround or with something else. We will see this in coming videos how. And there are some activities which are NVA, which are non-value adding activities, but cannot be avoided. If you eliminate them, the whole core activity will collapse. But again, this is not a dead end. There is always a method how to address both these categories. So our first learning point here is whenever we identify non-value adding activities from the spectacles of the client, we need to categorize them into avoidable and not avoidable or non-avoidable non-value adding activities. Now, this is a typical spread of activities in any random industry. Don't just get stuck with the figures. This is a schematic representation of the proportion of the three categories of activities that are there in any process. What are those three activities? Value adding activities, NVA unavoidable, that means non-value added unavoidable activities, and NVA avoidable, that means non-value added avoidable activities. So this is just a schematic representation of the activities in any industry to give you an idea of the proportion of the three types of activities. So if you see, the major chunk of the activities is non-value added avoidable activities. So this might be a bit surprising to you, but yes, this is a fact that we don't realize in our day-to-day processes, that most of the activities, more than 50% of the activities in any process have NVA activities that are avoidable. And as a first step, these are the activities that we must attack to remove them from our processes. If you cannot remove them, you can substitute them with activities that take less amount of time. Now, let us do a value stream mapping for our clinic or a hospital visit case that we have just seen. So to start with, the first step is to split the entire process from the start until the end into basic elemental steps. For example, we have started with the first elemental step of driving to the clinic, followed by searching for parking and getting the parking ticket, followed by walking from the parking area to the registration counter. So let's say driving to the clinic takes about 20 minutes of time, followed by searching for parking and getting the parking ticket, which takes about 10 minutes, followed by the next elemental step, which is walking from the parking area to the registration counter, which takes about 10 minutes. After this, the next step is waiting at the registration counter, because there are other people also before you. So this takes about 15 minutes of wait time, followed by the registration process itself of 8 minutes, followed by waiting for the vitals check, because after the registration process, you are advised to go to the checking of your vitals. This takes about 12 minutes. What happens after this? The next step is obviously the checking of the vitals, which is something like 7 minutes, followed by waiting for the doctor consultation. This takes about 20 minutes of time. And then finally, the doctor consultation itself takes about 40 minutes of time. Going to the pharmacy after the advice of the doctor takes about 7 minutes of travel time. Waiting at the pharmacy for your turn takes 11 minutes. And finally, you get your medicines, and this activity takes 15 minutes, including your payment settlement, checking of the medicines as per the prescription, etc. So finally, what do we have? Finally, we have the following picture. So these are the 12 steps that we have just seen, starting from the driving to the clinic and ending at the 12th step of getting the medicines. And in front of them, we have written the durations for each particular activity. Now, what is our next step? Our next step is to identify how many of these activities are value adding from the customer perspective. Please bear in mind who will decide whether the activity is value adding or not. It is not the business. It is always the customer who will decide whether this activity is value adding or not. So from the customer perspective, we put, let's put all the non-value adding activities in red color and all the value adding activities in green color. For example, driving to the clinic is a non-value adding activity according to the client. Now, because the customer would always wish the clinic or the hospital to be as near as possible to his house. And this is the reason why people choose to go to a clinic which is near to the house. So because from his perspective, it is non-value adding activity. Similarly, searching for parking and getting the parking ticket, this was not his focus area. This is certainly a non-value adding activity. So similarly, the third step, walking from the parking area to the registration counter, is also not going to solve his sickness or ailment or whatever reason for which he's going to see the doctor. This walking from the parking area to the registration counter is not going to solve his ailment, is not going to heal him, is not going to cure him. So certainly this is a non-value adding activity from the customer perspective, and so on. So based on this, we put all the non-value adding activities in red color and all the value adding activities in green color. So you will see in this that only number 9 and number 12, which is consultation and getting the medicines, are the only value adding activities from the customer perspective. So the customer does not want to pay for all the red figures that you see on your screen. He wants to pay only for the activities that are green, and which is only two, number 9 and number 12. So finally, to make an assessment on where do we stand actually, we need to have a quantitative indicator. So this quantitative indicator in case of a value stream mapping is known as value stream efficiency or value added efficiency, or more commonly addressed as VA efficiency. Let's see how to calculate this efficiency for our processes. Value adding efficiency is defined as the time consumed by the value added activities versus or divided by total time consumed by all the activities in the process from start to the end. In our case, the total activity duration is the summation of all the red and green figures that you see on the screen, which is 20 plus 10 plus 10 plus 15 and so on. And the total comes to be 175 minutes. So that is the total time consumed by all the activities. Value adding activity duration will be the summation of only two activities, the one having 40 minutes duration and the other having 15 minutes duration. So that is a total of 55 minutes. So therefore, in our case, the value adding efficiency or the VA efficiency will be 55 divided by 175, which comes out to be 0.3143 or 31.43%. So you see, from the customer perspective, he wants to pay only 30% of what you do. In his point of view, all other activities are useless, and he doesn't want to pay for that. This is how you calculate the value adding efficiency. So try to find out for your processes the value added efficiency or the value stream efficiency, and let me know what percentage you got. Thank you for watching, and see you until next time.